Welcome to The Growing Pair, our weekly podcast where we discuss and share all things life coaching, self development, and personal growth. Please welcome your hosts, Isaac Goldfarb and James Edge. James, it's episode 26.
26, yeah.
Oof, oof, oof.
Yeah, we've been doing this journey quite a long time now, which is pretty cool. And we're continuing to do it. And I think that's a good message, right? It shows we're doing it because we love it, because we like it, not because necessarily we had specific goals of making this into something.
It's an interesting one what you said, because I didn't know what my goal is when I wanted to do a podcast. I mean, of course, the goal, the base, the foundation of the goal is I want many people to listen to this, but you can't control it if people listen to it or not. I will have to reflect. But you're bringing the topic today. So what is the topic you're bringing?
And it links in with the podcast as well, because I've said on other shows, me at the beginning versus where I am now is completely different. I'm not worried about everything I say or overthink it after the podcast. I'm kind of more present here and then just leave it as, whatever I said in the podcast, I said. So I've been thinking a lot this week about how often we say yes to opportunities that put us outside our comfort zone, which are going into the unknown, maybe a little bit scary. How often do we say yes to things like that? Why do we say things to that? Or why do we say no to things, to opportunities or requests from people? So I've really reflected on that. And I guess the last week in particular, I've taken that mindset of if I feel it's an opportunity, I'm just going to say yes. I'm not just going to default to all the reasons why that won't work or why I shouldn't say yes. Kind of take the mindset of why wouldn't I do this? I think is how I'm flipping it now. The question to you is, how often do you say yes? And when you do get proposed things and new opportunities and things, where does your mind naturally go?
It's a good question, because I think the question is quite the same as how often do you say yes and how often do you say no. And when an opportunity comes in my way, I think the first question I'm asking myself is, what is my goal?
Mm-hmm.
And how, by saying yes or no, it takes me a step closer to my goal. And could be I have multiple goals. Could be I have several things I'm trying to do and to achieve. By asking myself this question, I'm kind of reducing the noise of the other bits of fears or anxieties or unknown. That's my take. What do you think? What's your take?
Obviously, if you've got a really, really clear goal in your head and you can use that as an anchor when these questions arise, you could be like, yeah, okay, cool, that fits in my goal. I guess for me, sometimes maybe you're not so clear on your goal. For me, it's more of a unconscious feeling decision. It feels right doing that. I don't really know what the outcome is going to be of saying yes to that, but it feels right. That's how I kind of take it. And yeah, I would love to be more like you and say, yeah, that fits in really well with my goal. I'm going to say yes. But I also like to not overthink things sometimes, because you can't control what the outcomes are going to be unless you do the action, right? So I kind of the mindset, unless I say yes, then I don't know if it is actually going to take me towards my goal. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. No, I mean, you said something that I'm stuck on it, and you said something about gut feeling. And that's a good one, because we sometimes make our decisions based on a gut feeling. And the gut feeling can be leading, but it can be also misleading. You know how sometimes you have a scenario where you really feel like in the deep side inside you really feel this is the wrong decision or the right decision, and you can't explain anything else but that. Okay, you have this scenario, and then you have other scenarios where you have other factors, but also you have the gut feeling, and the gut feelings can sometimes tell you different to what the other factors tell you, and that's really, really confusing. That's where the leading and misleading comes from, the gut feeling, right? That's how I look at things. Of when you really feel it's stronger than you, for me it's a leading. When there is the gut feeling, and then there is it's saying different to what the facts or the other things,
Your mind.
parameters. For me, it's a misleading. Not necessarily the gut feeling is wrong. I'm not always following it through, but I'm trying to look at things
Mm-hmm.
as you call them clear goals. They are not always clear, but they are goals. There
Mm-hmm.
are places I want to reach, to achieve, to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the goals are near future goals, some of the goals are far future goals.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking at things as, is it helping me to get to where I want?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I make my decision, by saying yes or no to whatever
Mm-hmm.
comes to my way. Does it make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. So in that second scenario where you got the mind and gut, for me, I would trust my gut more than my mind because I believe that my gut knows what I want, whereas your mind can trick you. Like I do believe that your mind, in quite a few situations, doesn't always work with you. It can work against you, built on fears, past experiences, insecurities, anxieties, fears, everything like that. Your gut won't because your gut's not really using logic. And I feel, let's say, like I said at the beginning, like maybe if I'm not 100% clear of the goal in my mind, my gut knows what I want. So therefore, I will always default or use that, will always override my mind. Or I'd like to think in the situations I do that because I trust that my gut knows what I want more than my mind.
The way I look at anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, it's not necessarily only your mind.
Mm-hmm.
If you're based your decisions, that anxiety playing a role here, whether it's a yes or no, right? If you were my client, for example, I would
Mm-hmm.
question what role this anxiety is playing, or what is it using. Like, yes, could be your mind is responsible of that anxiety, but also your anxiety can cause some physical reactions, which can also trick your gut feelings. So, not necessarily what you feel in your gut
Mm.
is not driven by past anxiety or anxiety that you are feeling, if it makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it requires an awareness of when it's your mind, because yeah, I believe your mind causes the anxiety. I don't believe your gut will naturally be anxious. It needs to be triggered by something in the mind. So if you're conscious of when your mind's being triggered, your emotions, things like that, that's when I can catch myself saying, well, I know it's coming from my mind. So I would catch myself in that moment. Not to go in too deeply on the gut feeling, because I know like some people, make great decisions with their mind and stuff like that. So I'm absolutely not saying always go with your gut and don't think about things. It kind of just feels right for me. But the other thing I was thinking as well is, do a lot of people default to no initially because it seems hard to do? Like, let's say someone said to you, I've got this opportunity, but like in your head you think it's really hard or whatever, you might default to no, and then kind of your mind will continue to come up with reasons as to why, yeah, you're right, actually that won't work because that will happen and that will happen. That kind of thinking, which can be beneficial. How many times does that get in the way of us saying yes to something? Because once that kind of overthinking train started, it continues to grow, and then it kind of talks you to not taking any action. I think what I'm trying to say here is I use my gut to help me take action, because many times before in my past, if I were to overthink it, I wouldn't take actions. So I'm kind of using my gut for action, is another way to look at it.
Hmm, interesting. You said something about people default is to know.
Could be. Yeah.
Could be. What I'm thinking when you were speaking about it, how easily it is for us to say yes to others, wishing we said no.
Yeah.
So, how we define our boundaries, and how we don't allow our boundaries to block us
Mm-hmm.
from moving forward to things we want to achieve. You quite rightly define it would be beneficial for us all to be more self aware
Mm-hmm.
of how we react and respond to things around us, what actually is the driving force in our decisions towards whatever comes across our
Mm.
life.
Yeah. No, you're right. The flip side of that is I also think, yeah, a lot of people would say yes in situations they don't want to because they don't want to let someone down, and they're influenced by someone else rather than what they want. And that's an important thing to do as well. So yeah, I completely.
That's why I said to you in the beginning, I say
Yeah,
saying yes and saying no, coming from me from the same place of
yeah.
understanding what is it really you want to achieve, or does it take you closer to wherever
Mm.
it is you want to go.
If you flip that around, because I think you can still link it in with action, because saying no is still taking an action, right? Because you're then going to focus on something else and not do that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Saying no and saying yes, for me, sits on the
yeah,
same spot.
yeah. No, I like that. You've got me to, yeah,
I got you
yeah,
to think more because you
yeah. You
brought
got me to think
really,
more.
you thought you're bringing a yes no questions, but you know, with me, there is never yes no questions. It's always
Yeah,
much more deeper than that.
that's why we do this, Isaac.
That's how we
Raise our
grow.
own awareness.
That's
Yeah.
how we grow at the Growing Pair. Let us know in the comments below, how do you see yes and no? And do you find it easier to say yes? Do you find it easier to say no? Or
Mhm.
neither? Share, like, follow, do whatever it takes to help us grow the Growing Pair. And as usual, we are choosing two things from today's session. What are your two takeaways?
Definitely the just that new perception that saying no is an action as well. I was very gung ho with the, yes to action, no's actually causes action as well. So that's probably my biggest takeaway. And then the other one would be boundaries is an important thing for people. And I think that's another thing to explore more for sure, how people do that themselves. So maybe one for another episode. How about you?
Something you said about the gut feeling and the mind made me think. When I think about the gut feeling, I give the mind less power when it comes to the gut feeling, but
Mm-hmm.
you actually said something that made me, oh, actually, no, Isaac, even though it's a gut feeling, it's still your mind. And I'm talking about the anxiety, the anxiety, when we cover the anxiety. So it's something that I'm taking away and I'm going to reflect on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one, again, is the yes and no. Saying yes and saying no sit on the same spot to me. It's all about what is it that I'm gonna decide that will take me
Mm.
closer to
Mm.
wherever
Mm.
it is that I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, nice.
And thank you so much for a very, very interesting conversation as always. And
Thank you, Isaac.
until next time, see you guys very, very soon.
Adios, everyone.